My digital toolbox showcase. This is the fourth time I've recorded this. I'm using some new software to me, so it's been having some problems, and I'm a little limited on time. It's got to be 15 minutes and talk too much. So we're going to go through all the tech tools that I use, and these hit on a lot of qualities that are reflected in my rubric: ease of use, free cost. Most of these apps are completely free. Meaningful to parents, allow students to collaborate, gets students excited, gives valuable data, creates an interactive environment, and finally gives students feedback. So you're going to see really a lot of these qualities standing out in multiple apps that I am using. So let's get started here. Because I have already gone through this once, that's why you're seeing some writing on this. There are tools that are built into screencastomatic, which is what I'm using to display this right now, that allow you to highlight. So I've already done the highlighting once, but I can show you again. You can highlight. You can also change to a pen, so you can show in, math problems. This would be a great screencasting tool if you're a math teacher. I have never used screencast-o-matic until this time, so that's why I felt like I should use this as my way of displaying this project. But I think it has a lot of useful features. In the past, I've used Oseri, I've used ScreenChomp, but what I didn't like about those is that I couldn't actually record myself. If I'm going to be using videos for instruction, shouldn't I be showing my students my face? Not that that's really necessary, but I kind of picked that up from the Flip Your Classroom book, so I was looking into software that allowed you to do that. Obviously, you can spend a lot of money in the book. In that book, they recommended Camtasia, which is like $300 software, so it does a lot more features. But this is a free web tool that has a lot of the features that I'm looking for when I go through this. So you can see how screencast-o-matic works as I go through this presentation. I have also included the links to all the web tools that I am talking about in each slide, so you can click on those if you'd like as I go through this. Kahoot, you can see the link for Kahoot right there. Many of you probably used Kahoot before. Changes tablets and tablets and devices into game boards, where you have to project it onto an overhead. Students then see shapes that are colored. Those shapes relate to questions, so it's multiple choice. Gives students feedback on how they're doing, because once they're done, they see the results of how students answered in the class. Are they in the majority? Are they in the minority? It's also a great tool for me to use right before a test. So if I see a low-scoring question where most students missed it, then we need to go back and review that. So Kahoot definitely gets students excited and engaged in what they're doing. So it's a great tool for that, but also gives you good data as well. Plickers is somewhat similar. Works a little bit different in its operation. Plickers, you have cards that you hand out to students. These are free to download once you have Plickers installed on your computer. You go through and you create all your questions. That's a necessary step. One of the most time-consuming things with Plickers is to enter in every student's name, first and last, and then you're going to pair it with a number. Those numbers relate to these cards that you can see these students are holding up there. So every card is numbered 1 through 35, I believe, is how many cards they give you. And then when you take your phone, because you have to have that app on your phone, it'll access your camera. You scan the room, students hold up the card, and how they hold it up depends on if it's an A, B, a C, or D. So as they turn the card, it's almost like a QR code. So if a student turns it a different way, it's going to be a different multiple choice answer. You scan the room, you get data then for every single student. So if you have 5 questions, it will give you the results of every single student individually and collectively. So it's a great formative assessment technique, although it does take some time to set this up. It is something that I've used occasionally just to mix things up. I would say that it would be helpful to laminate the cards and to maybe even give a copy to each student and have them glue it into their notebook. It's actually suggested on their website that you do that. May work a little bit better for elementary teachers if you only have 20 students, where I have 100 students all day long. It might be easier to manage using something like this on a regular basis, but it is a really good tool as well. The next tool I'm going to talk to you about is Quiz-Is, and I should have probably put this on the slide earlier because it reminds me a lot more of Kahoot, except it's more self-paced. So you create this, students log in with a code similar to that they would with Kahoot. and students work at their own pace, still having multiple choice questions. As they're going through it on your computer, you can see how many students have total correct. So here you see that 31 students are correct, and then there have been 20 incorrect responses. Not that that data helps you out a whole lot, but you can kind of see, definitely is there more majority getting things right than missing them, which was something you should always be looking for. So it gives you real-time information. You can also see how many get each question right. So that's the blue is representing here in this row, and then the red is how many they've missed, and then blue hasn't been answered yet. It also gives them these funny memes when they're done with each question, which are kind of funny. They're usually like superhero or related to other interests that students would have, so those are kind of funny. Also, you can see I highlighted homework games. One of the things I really like about quizzes over Kahoot is that you can assign it as homework. You can paste the link to your learning management system, and then students can do the same quiz at home for homework, which I usually just use it as a study tool that they can choose to do that as an option if they would like to. So whereas Kahoot can only be done really in the classroom, or the workaround if they have the app and they've downloaded Kahoot themselves, they can sometimes get in and play those games. But I really like the quizzes. You can assign it out as homework. Class Dojo is a learning management system, and I'm going to actually go to a sample class, a demo class that they provide for you when you, go back a slide there, 2 slides I guess. Whenever you set up an account, it takes you to, this is what we need. It gives you this sample class that you can kind of play around with the features before you actually set it up for a class, but you put every student's name in. I think Class Dojo worked well because I was able to copy them over from a spreadsheet that I already had with every student's name in it, so it saved me some time that way. But every student's in there, you can assign points individually, so positive things, you set these parameters to what they are, so being on task, I can reward points there. I can go over to negative things that would take points away if they're off task. If another student is unprepared, I can take off points for that. And you can set those to reset every day. They can accumulate throughout the week. You can even give whole class points if everybody's on task for the day. What I really like about this is it's a way to praise students. It's a way to redirect students without really having to rely on that vocal component that most of us use in our classrooms. Students get that immediate feedback, especially if they have this up on their own device, if they have the app, they can see when you're rewarding them points. I guess you could project it too, but to me that seems a little bit maybe not the best practice, because then students that are not doing well, everybody gets to see that Hugh Jackman, or in this case Megan Fox's and Matt Damon, are kind of not doing very well, but Cameron Diaz is the shining star. So I think that's the kind of the bad thing about projecting it. But if the students have the app, they can stay up to date with how they're doing, and I think you can even send the results out to parents when you want to do that. So some cool features there with Class Dojo. So back to the presentation that I was going through. I think I'll speed it along here. Voicethread, not going to spend a lot of time on that since we've all used it in this course, but I do think it is a great tool, especially for students that don't feel comfortable presenting in front of a whole class directly, doing it indirectly through a voice thread, and it allows students to collaborate and share their own thoughts that way. It's something I would like to use a little bit more this year in my classes, so I think this course has kind of opened me up to Voicethread. I've heard of it before, but I definitely think it has some powerful practices to it. Nearpod, what's great about Nearpod is that if you have a Nearpod, students log in with a code similar to Kahoot, but it then keeps all students on the same slide that you're on. And as you're going through it, they can annotate, they can add their own notes into it. So I think that's really some really great features to make sure that everybody that's on a device is actually on what you want them to be on. Problems with, I think, Nearpod is that the free version is very limited in space. It fills up very quickly, and then you have to start deleting your Nearpods that you've worked on. They're not available anymore if you delete them. So the paid version that's $10 a month, $120 a year, could be a really good investment. I know a teacher in my content area uses this frequently, and he has the paid version. So Nearpod is a great way to keep students on task with presentations that you're going through. Khan Academy, I won't spend a lot of time talking about it either. Definitely instructional videos that are great. always seem to be really rich content there that's explained much in the same way that when I was a math teacher, I would have agreed with his methodology in teaching it, but I really like the practice problems that they include. And they got a screenshot of here where it can give students hints. They can check their answers. You can see that down in the green box down here. And they can tell them if they're right or wrong, and it can, you can get 4 right in a row, and they can master a concept. And then as a teacher, you can set up accounts to track your students' performance. So definitely great for math. I look over the next couple of years that they're going to add other content area of having sample problems. Right now they're started adding some videos in social studies, but there's no sample problems. So definitely like what they're doing with Khan Academy. Google Classroom is my learning management system. So I'm hoping that this doesn't stall out here, but I will show you when I click on this my my class, and you will see all my classes listed in here. I teach 7th grade social studies, and I also teach a personal finance class. And when I go into it, so let's pick 7th period, you can see that I've got all my announcements here are under the stream. New students can join with the class code. For some reason, if they need to be added back in, they can do that. It gives me a list of students here, and I can message them individually through this if I want to. About is usually where I uploaded all my content information. So these were digital chapters. I kind of had to do a workaround because we didn't have a link to the textbook that we used, so I had to upload them all in PDF form. But I uploaded my notes as well. You can see key points. Those are notes that I use. So it was just a great way, and students could even message me back through this. There was just a lot of things that I really like, and I like what Google Classroom is doing, always adding new features into what they do. And I think it really works well with a lot of the Google apps that I'm going to talk about here in a second, such as Google Docs. So definitely really like Google Classroom to keep students with a way to easily talk with me. You can even see up here this one we did a school improvement plan this year, and we did a lot with even having Google Classroom with our accreditation that we were going through. So I already mentioned a little bit about Google Docs and Google Slides. This is a link right here to a project that my students created. You can see that it's a PowerPoint, very similar, but what I like about these web tools is that students can work on these at home and not have to. So they created all of this, but if they were in class or at home, they were able to work together and do this. And I think that's the beauty of Google Docs and Slides. Students can collaborate really well together without having to be in the same room. This is probably my favorite app, and I'll try to go quickly here to be able to get through this. Google Forms is basically it's just a way of surveying students, but I use it as an assessment tool. But then my favorite thing about it is Flubaroo. And if I click on this, you will see that once students have taken a Google form, the results come in a Google spreadsheet or a Google Sheet. And then what I can do is that I can use a Google add-on called Flubaroo, and it will grade it for me. And it doesn't just grade it for me, it gives me a lot of really great data. You can see here this question is in orange, and what that means is that that's a low scoring question. You can see it's marked up here, number of low scoring questions. Number 1 tells me how many submissions, so my average score for the whole class. A lot of really great information here that can be done through Flubaroo. It has completely changed the way that I assess students. I relied on it heavily this year, teaching content for the very first time. I used, for every chapter test, I used Google Forms and Flubaroo just as a way of cutting down my grading time so I could use that time to actually plan. So hopefully I'll kind of reduce my use of it a little bit this year. I'd like to start incorporating more essays and short answers, which some of that you can even do with Flubaroo and Google Forms, but I definitely like that feature as well. So I know we're at 14 minutes, and that's kind of long, but those are some of the tech tools that I use. So thanks for watching, sticking with this long presentation, and hopefully you can use some of these tools in your own classroom. Thanks.